basically, generative AI is a really brand new concept. It started to emerge on late November 2022 when ChatGPT was released, and 1 year later, on December 2023, Google Gemini AI was released, and it was known for getting modern output. Right. And here's a demonstration of how
It's a demonstration of how Google
Google Gemini
Gemini
AI
AI
can
can be
use
used
to
to
generate
generate
code.
code.
Dominic, you don't need to unmute your laptop. The speakers in the building will catch you. Cool.
Here I'm writing my prompt. And after that, once we press run, we'll see the output. Now, the Google Gemini AI these days with the strongest model, 2.5 plus, can already generate around 100 more lines of code, depending on what you requested. And now I could demonstrate some examples of apps I've developed using Google Gemini AI, which is integrated with it. First example I could show you would be a simple game called Breakout. And here's how my code looks like. Giving the Gemini model name and all things related to Gemini, and .env file which contains my API key, the objects for classes like pedal and the ball, rig, and drawing the text and the widgets. And here's, I could demonstrate how it looks like if we play it. We could press any key to start. We move left and right G to generate message. And it'll show a Gemini tip. We could resume. That's how it looks like. That's all. Another example of application I created using Gemini AI would be this one, a car racing game. And here's how I could demonstrate. Look, up key to speed up, right to go left, left to go right. And AI can generate commentary depending on the situation real quick. All right, and another one I've created would be a chatbot, but using text. Here we enter the parameters, and then we could enter any prompt. Let's say something like this simple one. And as time progresses, the AI response would appear soon. Now it's how this how it looks like, just like how Google Gemini AI demonstrates answers, but here it's using like Markdown syntax for the bold. For that means H3 if triple hash, and bullet points for asterisks, bold for double asterisks. And now I could demonstrate a more complex one. A more complex app I created using Gemini AI would be some adventure game on command line interface. Here I've just entered the required parameters because I know it will take long to generate the game world. And now we continue playing. We could choose anything we want. let's say we choose the first one to move around the map. Here we go, and here let's say down. And next, click press anything. Continue, and we'll see that our name other will be moved here. And also, I've placed, I was at 2 GitHub accounts which I've actively used for creating Gemini AI apps. This one, and the other one. Here, over the last 2 years, that's all I could present today. Thank you.
Do you have to pay for that?
Well, I
The
get
studio?
it for free because there's a free mode for Gemini AI.
Mhm.
You could go to aistudio.google.com and you could choose a free tier. Because I checked Gemini 2.5 Flash, it has a number of rate limits. Let's say free 10 requests per minute, 500 requests per day, for example. The latest one.
So just a question.
Yep.
You're saying that you can use the API for free on the lowest tier.
Yep.
Okay.
That's a free one on the lowest tier. And I know the one I could recommend would be 2.5 Flash because I know that the other ones from YC 1.0 Pro has already been deleted, long discontinued, something like deprecated. Right.
Thanks, Dominic. So those were results. I'm a little bit interested in the journey to the result. How much code did you type or adjust yourself? And how did it go with the back and forth until you were happy?
Well, it usually depends on the program I create. For the latest ones, like the breakout example, which use 2.5 Flash, it's just instant, just like in 1 or 2 hours, because turns out 2.5 Flash can generate that a few hundred of lines of code quickly. But for their one, like the complex one, like the adventure game on command line interface, which has thousands of line of codes, it took me around a few days or even a week. But I also use a lot of manual coding. That's because I know that AI can sometimes give the wrong code. That's why I also manually check still as usual. I combine both, manual thinking and AI. Anyone else? All right.
I feel like some people would want to see the communicating with Gemini through the API, like the sections of code that do that maybe. So it'd be nice if you could possibly show the parts that are like starting the connection and then actually communicating with it.
Yep, I could show you one example, a simple one. All right. Here I could share my screen again, entire screen, and the one with communicating with AI would be like this. This is the loading the then file, and the Gemini API key is in the .env file, but however, I'm not going to show it since it's something private. And next part, the parameters like temperature and all to be placed here. Safety settings, it's just default one. And the model, this is the one with AI, the latest model, 2.5 Flash. Initially, it was like 1.0 Dash Pro, but it's already deleted, so I don't use this. And this is a convo, which is initially empty. That's related to the conversation we have with one Google Gemini AI session. And the prompt, I made it dynamic depending on what we want. Let's say keywords in each of these programming languages. And conversation, send message, prompt, and here's to get the response. Might be multiple lines. We split them, then we combine them to create the board for the puzzle. That's a short, simple example of how I use AI to integrate to my app.
And that's just the Gemini Python API that you got from Google, isn't it?
Yep, Google
Yes.
Generative AI.
Yeah.
That's the name of the library.
Is there like a sorry,
No,
something
wait.
else.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, did you use Gemini to write the API calls to Gemini?
Well, I do it manually and make me the prompts manually depending on what's required. I did trial and error using Google Gemini AI to check whether it'll generate what's wanted or not. Sometimes when I ask for a number, it can ask for something in a wrong format. That's why I said, please enter one word only. Sometimes I need words like that. Anyone else?
In one of the examples you showed that the commentary, depending on how you play the game.
Yeah.
In that case, I'm sorry if you had already shown it, the code was a bit small for me. So in that case, to get that commentary, do you send the state of the game, or do you like you showed, do you dynamically create a more human conversational prompt based on the variables of the game state to get that
Well, there are many game state variables which are initialized by the AI. When I use Google Gemini AI to generate the code, it's based on them. That's how the commentary is created. Right.
I use the Cursor IDE, you know, cursor.com, which is basically VS Code with AI. So you have access to models that can work on multiple files of your project. And it supports rules. And rules is just a text file that gets prepended to the context so that you don't have to keep saying the same things. When you wrote this, were those just straight up plain do this, do that without any context added?
Yeah.
Yeah? You said write me a car racing game.
Yep, something like that. And next I mentioned on how using Python. And next, please place all the code in one file. That's so that it generates only one file. That's what I usually do. And I could copy paste immediately, then run it. That's how I create it.
That's it. Okay.
And did it run straight away, or did you have to go back and tell it to fix it?
Well, I fix it manually. I just read through the code here that combine effort. Sometimes because sometimes running immediately can also fail. Although we know that we could ask AI to fix it sometimes. If you're just urging something like GitHub Copilot agent might fix.
Yeah, I think Cursor can actually run it, doesn't it? Cursor can run your code and see the
yes,
errors and then fix
it
it.
can do
Yeah.
a lot of things that I don't allow.
Cursor just runs
run
in
your
the
computer if you
terminal.
want.
It
Yeah.
doesn't actually run it,
Hmm. And then it gets the error or exceptions and then can fix it. Yeah.
I guess just a follow up on that is, have you ever tried like kind of prompting one AI like Gemini and then just putting the response into like Claude and then getting them to kind of argue with each other instead of manually? And I just think that'd be like an interesting like part 2 to this. If you could try to make a game without writing any code yourself, I think that would be interesting.
Oh, I might think about that.
Yeah.
Because I know that what I've learned from Workspace is more about driving the agent. That's why I know.
Yeah, so in Cursor, you can switch back and forth around various models. And so I ask the same questions, put the same prompts into multiple models, and they don't really learn from each other, from my experience. Just keep sticking to their old, regardless of what you're getting told in human words.
Right.
It seems. Yeah. But surprisingly different results. So I think it's worthwhile shopping around if you really
just don't want to write code today.
It depends. It's not just about writing code. But that's a different discussion, I guess. Some things they're really good at.
I think it's mundane tasks like unit tests, documentation, those kind of things. Sort of boilerplate stuff. That's you usually can just hand that off,
Yeah, well, with
Test
the-
files. Yeah.
But with the code, it's also getting you on the right track. Sometimes it's a function dug buried deep down that you would have to find and look up.
Mhm.
I can't remember. I did a Google Sheets formula or a script. I have a script that syncs with the API from somewhere into Google Sheets. And I wanted to run something asynchronously and tell the user, and you know how you have these little bubbles that come out the corner and then disappear again? Apparently that's called toast. in Google Sheets. Well, I didn't know that. I just said, okay, and then I want to show a message, and then I see the code, and it has this dot toast. Okay, well, that would have taken me longer to just find out.
Yeah.
So I think it's also reading APIs, documentation for you, and just grab out the right notation or function name.
Have you hit limits with the new cursor pricing model?
I don't know, I'm not paying.
It's run really slow.
It's a company. I think so.
Anyone else?
This is probably not completely related, but have you tried the same projects in other languages as well? And if you have, like, because my idea is like, since Python does not have brackets and very strict syntaxes except the indentation, it probably is easier for LLM or lesser errors an LLM would make compared to something like Java or C++ where you need to have strict
Yep.
open and closing brackets. Like,
Yep.
Have you tried comparing or you have because
I've tried Java a lot.
I see, okay. So
Also curly brace.
so Python, was it more? Is it less prone to errors by LLM in your experience?
Well, I think it's a bit less prone to errors. That's why I sometimes had to check manually, because I know that AI code is not always correct, and I know that not everything AI says is correct. That's what we know over the years. Sometimes AI never says I don't know, but could hallucinate things. That's why double checking manually is still necessary.
So more in Java than in Python?
Well, I think for the syntax errors, because of like indentation, more in Python, because Python says indentation with Java, it's curly braces.
No, I mean, was it more successful in Java or in Python?
Java.
Yeah.
Yep.
Indentation is the issue.
Python, if indentation is Python.
I'm facing currently, like, I'm trying to do automated integration, and my initial one was with a JSON output, and I found out it fails a lot more than I thought. My testing couple of times it works, but it fails. But YAML or something like that, it works almost all of the time. So I try to compare it with similar to Python and Java. It's really bad. That's why I asked the question.
Oh.
But that's interesting to know Java is better. Java syntax is better.
So one thing that I've heard from researchers is that because all the benchmarks for these LLMs that do coding, the benchmarks are about generating Python code. So they train these models to be very good at particularly generating Python code. So, just a generically trained Gemini 2.5 or whatever, it has some ranking on, whatever website. Like, it is about, like, that ranking comes from generating Python code. It might still generate C++, but it has been optimized to generate Python code. So it might still be perfectly decent at C++, but to get higher on those tables, you need to be much better at making Python. Yeah.
I found an interesting project called Taskmaster, task-master.dev, where you define the task more like a project, so that it first splits it up into the steps that it can come back to with the intermediate results and refer to. So you're not babysitting, you're project managing, basically, the AI. And that'll be interesting to look at. Because I think if it's simple issues that it creates in the first pass, you just let it go over its own work a couple of times. And automatically. Good fun. Cool. Thanks, Dominic.
All right.